Are we nearing the end of the tariff-inspired gold and silver bull run? Perhaps so. I'll explain why in this video as we explore. It is going to be very interesting to see what happens in the coming days as the details of the tariffs are being announced right now as I record this video. But in the end, according to a White House press release, they are saying that tariffs work. I'm going to be referencing a piece here that discusses a little bit about what is known as Liberation Day. That is this April the 2nd, 2025, which, by the way, happens to coincide with the anniversary of the United States Mint, born on this day as well, which defines what the dollar is and the coins that were going to be produced. And they are of gold and silver. Yes, indeed. Gold is defined by a weight of gold and silver. But let's talk a little bit about what's happening today. Gold and silver prices are up slightly. I think as a sort of a last-ditch little bit of a boost here. Moments before the markets close, gold is up $13.50, up 0.43% to $3,129.80. Silver is up 37 cents, 1.1% increase at $34.12 right now. In fact, right before I hit the record button, gold was down slightly and silver was only up about a half a percentage point. So it sounds like that some of the announcements that are being talked about right now, which I'm not privy to because I'm not watching the press conference, they are instoking a bit of fear in the markets. Yet again, but this could be the last time. Gold prices failed for the first session to make a new record high in London's bullion market, trading firm above $3,100 as U.S. COMEX warehouse stockpiles swelled further, and global equities also held flat ahead of U.S. President Donald Trump's announcing his Liberation Day trade tariffs on the import of foreign goods. You know, and days like today are a good one to consider looking for potential dips down the road. But no matter what, dollar cost averaging always works to preserve your wealth. So next time you're looking to make a purchase of precious metals, consider Summit Metals, summitmetals.com. They've got very competitive prices, and check out their YouTube page. They just posted a video interview with yours truly. That's me, for those of you in Rio Linda. And you can hear that interview over there at Summit Metals on YouTube. So search them out, check them out, and check that interview. So what's happening here? London silver prices rallied now back above $34 an ounce after falling for 2-week lows on Tuesday's 50-cent drop that we saw. Tariffs work, declared a White House press release as traders and investors awaited details of the goods and nations affected, citing studies and press reports from pro-Republican think tanks and media. The tariffs are definitely here. This is an exciting day, according to Kelly Loeffler, Trump-appointed head of the Small Business Administration, in an interview with Fox News retweeted by the president on the Truth Social platform. The greatest salvation for not just small businesses, but for America. But senior members of the Trump team fear that aggressive trade tariffs will prove expensive for U.S. consumers and costly, therefore, for the Republicans' popularity, according to the political website. With Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, perhaps the biggest proponent of Liberation Day, set to get blamed should things go poorly. And the surge of U.S. imports trying to beat Trump tariffs has made a big dent in the world's number one economy's GDP forecast for January to March, with the Atlanta Fed's latest prediction coming in at minus 3.7% annualized, or still a massive 1.4% drop annualized after adjusting for the tariff-led surge in gold bullion inflows, and they are breaking records. It's crazy. With the New York warehouses already holding a record quantities of gold and silver as dealers ship bullion into the U.S. for fear of Trump hitting precious metals with trade tariffs, latest data show yet more inflows, adding a further 14 tons of gold and 91 tons of silver just on Monday. the price gap between the London Gold and New York COMEX June futures contracts widened above $33 per troy ounce, raising the gross incentive for flying bullion west across the Atlantic by $10 per ounce from just Tuesday. And the same thing for silver also widened ahead of Trump's Liberation Day announcement, edging to 74 cents per ounce. Dealers used physical delivery in the March contract to book profits on tariff-related arbitrage trades, according to U.S. dealer Fidelity Trade of COMEX Silver, noting that around 10% of open interest ran to physical rather than cash settlement, a choice made by the seller, not the buyer. And gold, the first day of April delivery, saw 6.6% of open interest go to physical delivery. In normal times, this number would be less than 1%. So this is all coming to a head, folks, and more than likely, things are going to settle down. And so when things settle down, even if we come into the new reality, which may be negative, depending on your view about tariffs, and again, I don't want to necessarily have a debate about that, but nonetheless, it's about what the market sentiment is, what the reaction to it is, the overall market. And because of that, gold and silver will, in turn, react accordingly. In other words, we could see gold and silver prices stabilize or fall or both. Yes, now what would that look like? Perhaps maybe once things get digested and adjusted, by the way, because I think the announcements that we're going to be hearing about are just the beginning of further adjustments and negotiations that are going to be taking place. Those negotiations are going to have a positive impact, I think, overall in terms of how the market is going to react, because right now we're fearing the worst, especially for things like automobiles, which are now being tariffed. And so there's a lot of activity at dealerships out there, a lot of sales before these can take place, before these tariffs go into effect. But auto parts as well will be tariffed, but 25% is what we're seeing. And could there be some negotiations down the road? So in other words, we settle in with the worst news. Once that news settles in, then a stabilization of the gold and silver market, perhaps even falling a bit, because it's not nearly as bad as they fear typically in what happens in the marketplace. So therefore, gold and silver prices could go down. And then think about this, folks. If there's some negotiation and we see auto tariffs go down and other tariffs fall or even go away because nations decide, you know what, we're not going to tariff the United States. And so because it's reciprocal, the United States responds and says, we're not going to apply tariffs either. That will be 100% free trade. And so we'll see how that plays out. And then you get news like that, especially from a larger market. Well, watch out. Gold and silver prices are going to fall even more. Now, what could those numbers be? Perhaps maybe we see silver fall back to around the very low 30s, or maybe even $29, $28 an ounce. Gold could fall below $3,000 an ounce, maybe $2,900 or $2,850 again. Those are some real possibilities as we digest and the market adjust and the stock market adjust. Because remember, this isn't the first time that this president has applied tariffs. Now, not to this extent, but he did it in his first term. And the stock market reacted negatively for a while. But then it came around and it boosted and it soared. So that very well could happen yet again. And that means that likely, perhaps, if we see economic activity move to the upside, then that means that could push off raising or lowering interest rates by the Federal Reserve. And that would not be good for gold and silver prices. Now, this is what I think is going to happen. Does that mean it's going to happen? Likely, I don't know. It may not. I'm just assessing the situation and my understanding of the markets and how quickly they can react. And as they are bouncing around like crazy here, I'm watching the numbers, and silver's now up 60 cents now to $34.35. We're just moments away from the market closing. Gold has shot up over 1.3% now, up $42.90 to $33,159.20. That's another new record for gold, by the way. We're just over $40 away from hitting $3,200 an ounce. And so it's going to bounce around for a while as they digest what's going on in the markets. There's a lot of buying and selling happening right now, right before the market closes. So these numbers are going to bounce around. Who knows what they're going to close at in mere moments. But nonetheless, it's something we're going to be watching to see what happens here. But I do think, honestly, that the worst is going to be over very soon. We're going to know what's going to happen. The market will adjust, folks. And again, that's not an argument for or against tariffs. It's about the psychology of the market and what gold and silver will do as a result. Nonetheless, the fundamentals of gold and silver have not changed. They continue to provide a hedge against economic instability. So I'd encourage you to hold on to your metals. It's a very powerful thing to do, to have your metals and hold on to them. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section below. I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.